morning. Welcome to Milk Slinger. My name is Jennifer. Today I'm going to be making a Lancashire cheese. The cheddaring process is taking the mass of curds, pressing it, keeping them warm, slicing them, and then stacking up those layers, flipping them and reversing the order of that stack. And as they're sitting there, the way it's being expressed, the curds are being kept warm and the pH is lowering. This Lancashire cheese is an easier version, a kind of do it my own way. So you can do it your own way too. As you get used to getting that texture, you will soon learn to adapt the recipe to suit your own kitchen and the end product that you want. You can do it all different ways and it's still cheddaring. It's just going to be a different type of cheddar, which is fabulous. So today I wanted to get the cheese going before my husband had even finished milking. So I was using milk that we had from yesterday out in the barn fridge, 6 gallons worth, which I brought in and started heating up. And then once it got to 70 something degrees, I cut the heat. And at that point I added the culture to the milk, even though it wasn't to the 88 degrees yet. So I used clabber culture that I had done myself, and it was about a pint. So I threw that all in there, stirred it up, and let it sit aside. Then when my husband came in with the new milk, we topped it off the rest of the way to the 8 gallons, and then I finished raising the temperature to 88 degrees, except I went too far, it went to 91 degrees, no big deal. So it is time for the rennet. This recipe calls for a teaspoon of rennet for 8 gallons of milk, so 1/8 per gallon. Proportions and method may slightly vary if using pasteurized milk. I talk about these changes in my Milk Slinger Foundation doc, which you can download for free at milkslinger.com. Gonna let this rest for about 45 minutes. While it's setting up, I'll clean up the kitchen. Gonna cut this with a whisk. You want small pieces for this cheese. Give it 5 minutes for the curds to settle and heal a little bit. Alrighty, gonna take off a little bit of this whey so that I can stir these curds more easily. The recipe says stir for 10 minutes, let them sit for 10 minutes, and then you strain them into a colander and move on with the cheddaring and milling. That is almost no time. This Lancashire is a very fast cheese. Might be a good one to start with. So starting out, I'm just gonna be breaking up the curds as I go for the first 10 minutes of stirring. Just gently agitating them, making sure you don't have large lumps like that. You don't have to be precious with these. The curd seems to settle into the bottom corners and you get these big pieces that kind of are together. So what I'm doing with my hand is I'm kind of going like this. And so I'm going around the bottom and just kind of crumbling these as I hit those spots. These curds feel fairly moist. There's a little bit of dryness on the outside of them. They're like egg whites, but a little bit firmer, but not at all rubbery. And they're definitely not knitting together. Let's try a squeeze test just so I can show you. Man, they're just like goop. You can hardly even squeeze them. Like, you can't. So they're way too early. Recipe says to let them settle for 10 minutes and then start straining them. So this feels a little counterintuitive to me, but I've already done it and it works. As these settle in the whey and then as they get cheddared, they continue to firm up. At this point, the instructions say to transfer the curds to a cheesecloth, let it drain. I'm not gonna do that. I don't wanna deal with the cheesecloth and all this curd. What I'm gonna do is strain off as much whey as possible, and then I'm gonna press it in the pot and use that as my straining or draining method. The curds will still be in the whey. They'll just continue to acidify it. I think it's fine that they're staying in the whey. Don't help me, this is too tedious.
It's not right. That's stuck. Hold on. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, it's tedious. Don't worry. This isn't any slower. Hold on. I forget completely. Upright. Okay, we're almost upright. Oh, that hurts. I feel like I'm 80 years old right now.
You look like you're 80 years old. It's really heavy now. It won't hurt your back.
Oh, good. Then why are you giving this to me?
Is it hurting your back?
Too late now.
Okay, I got it. Oh, it's heavy. So I have these containers that I got from Webstaurant, which happen to fit inside 8-gallon pot perfectly. I'm just using the lid. I do not want to press on this heavy at all. And I'm going to fill this up with water and set it on top just to keep it firm. We'll give it 15 minutes. Next step is to flip the slab of curd and then rest it for another 15 minutes. So here it is under this lid, which has pressed down considerably. Lots of whey in there. Hey, hon, can you help me pour this again? We need to get another bucket. Do we have another bucket? Thank you. Hokey puppy. Yep, that's good. So to flip this curd does not work too well. It tears apart. So I'm just going to take a large chunk of it and turn it. Take another large chunk, flip, and then that and flip. Just do it however you need to get that all down in there. Put the lid back on, put this back on. I think I want a little bit more. It's just an inch or so of water, plopping it down, and we'll give it another 15 minutes. It feels nice and warm. Don't fall. Next, you're supposed to cut this in half and stack it on top of each other for a 15-minute rest. I'm not going to cut it in half because it already is in half. Instead, I'm just going to flip this one back over, and then I'm going to put this one on top of that, and this one. I'm going to put this back in on it. Time for the cheddaring. Clean board, knife, and actually I lied. This isn't the cheddaring, this is the milling. This is where if you have a meat grinder and you want to grind your cheese, you can. Flat cheese, just peel off a piece or two, however much you want. You could also just like tear the cheese up like that, which is totally fine. It just kind of hurts my hands to do it because it's tough. Actually, that's not too bad. I just figured something out. This crumbles easier as opposed to when I made like officially cheddared cheeses that are really tough. So that means that this is less tough, which means that this is not fully cheddared in the traditional sense, which means it's easier to tear with your hands, which means, I don't know, maybe this is what makes it a little bit sweeter, a little less sharp. Who knows? I'm going to do it with my hand right now because it is very easy to do. Now the reason this might be preferable to cutting the curd is that you get more craggy bits in here, which means that the salt is going to work in a little bit easier, which means that you're going to express more whey, which means something. I'm not sure what. I'm just going to chop it up like this so you can see. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, you know what I was thinking about? You could probably take these pieces, salt them, make feta. I bet you could also melt this down and make mozzarella. Should we try it? Cheese does not have to be complicated. You can do all kinds of things with one recipe. Yeah, basically it melts and stretches. Let's add a little bit of hot water. It's really hot and it's stretching. I mean, this is basically just melted, right? So is this mozzarella? No, maybe. That's an interesting idea. I'm chopping because it is easier than tearing up and I want to get this done because I'm hungry for lunch. Also, the curds are cooling the more they sit out and I don't like that. The recipe calls for not that much salt. Actually, I forget what it was, like 2.5 or 3 tablespoons for 4 gallons of milk. I've since read another recipe that said to use 8 tablespoons for 5 gallons of milk. I usually use a tablespoon of salt per gallon of milk, so it's a lot more. So I'm going to do a very heaping half cup of salt. And then you mill this in. This one is less chicken texture, rubbery-ish, and it's a softer, a little bit creamier curd. It has a little bit of a smoother paste. Not smooth, that's the wrong way to say it, but like it is definitely not as tough as other cheddars. Can I get all this into there? I think that's being a little bit optimistic. Hey hon, you can lift up this end for me. Look at that, it's almost a little low, not too bad. Not even gonna smooth this out before I put the press on because I don't want to. Well, because it's gonna make a knot in it when you press it down. That doesn't really matter. When I go to flip it, it will smooth out on the flip side. I'll keep pushing it down over the next 15, 20 minutes or so, and then I'll flip it again. You know how cheddar cheeses in the United States are often orange? People are like, where does that orange color come from? Well, according to this book, by David Asher. When you make raw milk cheeses, depending on the season, if it's summertime, they're gonna get more carotene, the cheeses are gonna be more yellow. Back in the day, when they switched from raw milk cheeses from grass-fed cattle to having the cows be in pens and being fed grain, the cheeses got really white and people knew that was inferior cheese. So they started adding some orange coloring, it's now annatto, to make their cheese just a little bit creamier looking, a little bit yellower, to kind of fool people into thinking this is actually cheese that comes from milk from cows that are out in the pasture. And then producers started thinking, well, if we just made all the cheese a brighter orange and a uniform color all the time, then everybody would think it's really good cheese and it's all the same, and people bought it. That's where you get the bright, glowy orange cheese. See how that all mashed down in there, and it's lumpy, but that is just fine. A lot of cheddars do not knit well for me. This one knits better because of the higher moisture content, because they have not been so chicken breasty, cheddar to the point of being like rubber. I am now thinking ahead to how we're gonna age it, and I'm considering doing a bandage wrap cheddar with this one because the surface will be pretty smooth if I press it hard enough. This is getting pressed, not heavy, but heavy enough. It's still clear whey coming out. It is not very smooth yet, but we are getting there. It feels soft and squidgy. We're gonna press the heck out of it now, or more so anyway. Right at 80.
Do you want your face in it?
No. It's getting smoothed out, so this means I can do a cloth-bound cheddar. Ta-da, ta-ding, ta-dong. Technically, I could take it out right now of the press, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna keep pressing it for another 12 hours. I have to make sure it's smooth, so there's no creases.
Oh wait, there's one right there.
What? A smooth cheese butt. Let's go to 80. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. 8 pounds even. Gonna air dry it now? I'm gonna backpack these 2 cheddars, make cloth, did I say backpack? I'm going to cloth bind, lard wrap, cloth wrap, bandage wrap. I'm gonna bandage wrap these Lancashire. Here's the one I filmed, here's the one I made earlier. They've been sitting in the downstairs bedroom. They're cool, they're still a little bit clammy. They look actually like they're cracking a little bit. So, I guess it's time to bandage wrap them. This has not been air drying very long because it's already dry. You see that crack right there? It's splitting open a little bit. I normally don't have trouble with my cheeses cracking at all, but this one just did. I guess because it's Lancashire and the curds are a little bit more, you know, have trouble knitting together, so there's a little bit of natural separation. Oh, look at all that lint. This is the lard from our pigs. Lovely, luscious lard. And this is the melty stuff. So just dip it a little bit in here and smack it on. I did some long pieces to make sure it gets down over it all the way. You know, I dread these tasks. I mean, it is satisfying, but I want to get it done. When you're making like 4 of these cheeses a week and you're trying to do natural rinds, it just takes a lot of time. I get at least 1 long one from each side so I can make sure I get down around all the parts. I think that's it. Hopefully that will keep much of the oxygen from getting in and rotting this cheese. This is very melty and sticky, so once it gets in here, it gets cool, it's gonna set up. This one tends to dry things out more, but I'm thinking the fact that it's cloth bound with all that lard should keep it fairly, you know, not dried out. The humidity in here is 35. I checked it yesterday, and I just cut open a Derby cheddar, which was cloth bound in here, and it is on the dry side. And so I am taking this Lancashire down to the basement where that humidity is 65. Hopefully it will not get too bad and I can keep this one down there. Follow me. Even though the cloth bound stuff will protect it, I still don't want drips. And I'm gonna bring upstairs some of these to go in the other cave because I have space for them. Oof. This Lancashire is getting weird. Or not weird, but it's just changing a lot. It is green, it is dark. I'm getting some brown stuff there. You can see some of that red, whites, and things. I don't know what they are, but it just looks a little bit like a different animal. Oh, that's what I wanted to show you. Like, what is that? It's almost like bubbling up a little bit. I'm kind of impressed with this at how much it is changing, and I'm super curious at how it is inside. But I'm gonna let it keep going for a long time because I think maybe part of my problem with bandage wrapped cheeses is that I have not been letting them age long enough and they need that extra time. And look at how my hands get so black from these cheeses. Oh my goodness. What is this stuff? Looks like spongy molehills. It's like a cave creature. The one thing I potentially am concerned about is that I would get mites. I don't think these are any signs of mites. I think this is just new mold coming up that's living in the cave. And I'm gonna say it's absolutely fine. I have no idea though. This is the Lancashire, and I can't read it anymore because it's gotten too moldy, but I'm pretty sure that's what this is. It is like weird. I am very dubious about this one. It is just wild looking. It feels very firm, so I'm gonna let it keep going. And look at that mat, it is gnarly. It should actually be a cake, like a geode or something. I don't know, it just looks super whack. The cheese cave now has like little baby flies flying around it because the door is slightly cracked and it's hot summertime, and I am so concerned that there's going to be eggs being laid on the cheese and maggots growing. I don't think so because the cheese is not bubbly and there's nothing coming out of it and it's firm and solid. But I mean, what if I get maggots in my cheese? So we're gonna go cut open this thing. Humidity is high in there. It is at 95. So look at this baby. It's a monster. Now let's see if you can see the flies. Yep, right here's a fly. I am concerned that they are going to contaminate my cheeses. Arrgh. I'm gonna actually cut it out here because I don't want to take all that mold into the house. So one of my questions has been, if you leave a bandage wrapped cheese aging for long enough, will the molds eat through the bandages and kind of disintegrate them, or do you always have to cut into them? So I'm gonna cut into this. Actually, can I just cut this? Ouch. See, I'm gradually peeling off some, there's another layer, and then I plucked up this layer, and then I stabbed down here, and that is also a layer. And there's the cheese down in there. Woohoo! So obviously the cloth is still there, it did not rot, and the scissors is not very strong. Oh, there's more. I'm not even at the bottom. Is that it? Yeah, that's the lard then. And there's the cheese. This next process is just cleaning it up. This is the problem with bandage wrapping. It's just kind of a mess. Ooh, it's a nice color underneath. Once you get down to the golden, it's kind of like honey. Flies, get off of this. It is fly season. Actually, every season's fly season here. Who am I fooling? See, I don't know what that is. Why is that browner? Curious about that. You know, at this point, I kind of feel like this is not going to be good. It smells bad. I mean, it doesn't smell bad, it just smells like basement, and it looks gross. And why the heck do I bother making cheese? And yet I'm hopeful, you know. Okay, let's clean up. Ugh, what a mess. Coco, come here. You wanna taste this? Danny, what do you think about the cheese? Here, it was good, isn't it? Maybe I should give you guys some cheeses. Go, okay, go on. You're done. I'm gonna go over the cheese one more time. I kind of like having an outdoor workshop. I don't know about those gray spots. What is that? It's like a bruise, like an apple bruise. Well, it looks gorgeous. Flies, go away. Look at that. That is looking really splendid. And then look at that. When it shattered, that's the texture of that part. This tastes so good. Oh my lands. This is like a cheddar. Okay, I just had one that's like right along the edge. I can taste the hint of basement. I do not like that. Maybe I just need to cut it. Not even worry about scraping it off. Coco, are you really wanting some? Oh, geez, you freaked me out. And you slobbered. Don't drool when you eat. It's rude. Perfectly salty. Creamy. It crumbles in your mouth. It's not sharp, but it has definitely a lot of flavor. There's a little bit of a brightness to it, which I bet if this was aged for another, 6 months, might get a little bit more mellow. It's already been, what, 5 months? So, holy heck, that's good. Okay, so you saw that little bit of labor I just did. It's a pain in the butt and it's all this mess, but if it makes a flavor like this, it's worth it. And that thing looked like death. It was fine. It was totally fine. Munch, munch, munch. I gotta eat all this. I think that little bit of flavor that I don't like is that much, that depth of that yellow bit right there. So I'm just gonna trim that off, which feels like such a waste. I lost that much. But if the interior is as phenomenal as it is, then it's not a waste. You gonna taste this, Nicholas? What do you think? Don't feed it to the dog.
Oh,
What do you think?
good.
What does it taste like?
It's cheese. It's like a flavor or something.
It's like a flavor or something. All right, go away, I'm done with you. What type of a cheese does it remind you of? What flavors does it have?
It's like tangy, I guess.
Tangy?
Sure.
Sure, okay. Maybe he means it tastes sharper. Okay, I'm gonna taste one of these edge pieces. It definitely tastes fridge. I do not like that taste. I guess there's no point to really scrape it, except you don't want it on your hands when you're doing it. I don't know how to make it so you don't get fridge, besides having an actual cave, which I do not have. For all I know, cheeses like this that are aged naturally in caves taste like it, and they just clean them up. I've never been to a cave, so I don't know what they're doing to the cheeses, but maybe this is not so far off from an actual cheese cave aging. Give them a whole bunch of scraps. They'll love it. This one I'm going to backpack again and let it age longer and see how that goes. And this one, stop move. Dude, we are going to eat ourselves. Did I just cut a cord? No. Whew.